Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Otherppl podcast. I'm Brad Listi, and I'm in Los Angeles. It is Friday, and it is time for another flashback episode. Today, I'm going to be flashing back to episode 373, my conversation with author Bud Smith. Episode 373 first aired on July 29th, 2015. Bud Smith works heavy construction in Jersey City, New Jersey. He is the author of a novel called Teenager, available from Vintage. His other books include Double Bird and Dust Bunny City. His fiction has appeared in a variety of publications, including the Paris Review, The Believer, The Baffler, and The Nervous Breakdown. Bud Smith teaches creative writing and also does some work as an editor. You're going to hear me in conversation with Bud Smith back in July of 2015. Episode 373, that is coming up dead ahead. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow the show on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Sign up for my weekly email newsletter over at bradlisti.substack.com. And join the Otherppl Patreon community over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. Help keep this show going into the future. So today's outtake, once again, comes from episode 373. It first aired on July 29th, 2015. A reminder that the full episode can be found in the feed. It's there waiting for you. So if you like what you hear in today's flashback and you want to go in for the full hour with Bud Smith, just look for episode 373 in the feed, wherever you get your podcasts. All right? Here we go with this week's flashback. This is me in conversation with Bud Smith.
So the people from the Jersey Shore are just like normal, regular kind of people. The people on the show are like, I don't know, worse than cartoon characters, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I grew up in a campground, believe it or not, in Bayville. And it was like...
What do you mean you grew up in a campground?
We rented a house in a campground. And it was all like dirt roads and just hanging out with kids that came and rented out for the summer, like they would come in RVs or something. And the wintertime, the place was completely empty. So it was just me and my little brother. And we would...
And your parents.
My parents, yeah. And we would just screw around in the campground and get into trouble, basically in this empty campground.
How close to the shore were you?
We were maybe like a 10-minute drive to the bay and maybe 15 minutes to the beach.
Okay.
So...
Good, but a good childhood?
Yeah.
That sounds fun, kind of.
It was great. It was really cool. And, you know, like I said, it's like kind of like a resort town, so people are always coming on vacation, so all kinds of different friends.
And did you have to, like, your parents had to, like, work the campground or maintain it in order to have the house, or was the house just there?
Oh, no, the house was like the people who built the campground, like, decided that they wanted to build a better house, so they moved, and then they rented it out, you know, just to my parents randomly through a newspaper.
Okay.
My dad worked as a mechanic fixing cop cars, so, like...
Like exclusively cop cars?
Yeah, he worked at the municipal garage. So he started out on garbage trucks, and, you know, so...
That's a good gig. That's a steady work, though.
Yeah, except when you climb under a garbage truck and you start fixing it and hitting stuff with hammers, all the maggots, like, fall on you.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, so, he eventually graduated up to working on cop cars, which was cool when we were little because...
No maggots in the cop cars.
No maggots in the cop cars. And he'd come home from lunch, like, with the police cruiser and park it in the driveway. So we thought it was cool when we were little kids because the neighbors always thought we were like in trouble with the police, and we thought that was really cool. And sometimes my dad will let us ride in the back of the cop car.
Turn the siren on?
Turn the siren on, lock us in the car. So it was cool. So, yeah.
And then what did your mom do?
My mom, she worked at like a factory, on like a factory line, like aerosol spray cans mostly and stuff like that. And I remember she used to bring home boxes of cassette tapes that we would disassemble. I don't know what they did with them, but we'd be like little child labor in the living room of the campground ripping apart cassettes, and she got like piecemeal somehow with these cassettes. I don't know.
What do you mean she got piecemeal?
Like for every cassette we ripped apart and disassembled, they would take them, I guess, and reuse them somehow.
Like, did you have to make sure that the parts were intact? You couldn't just shatter them.
No. You had to like take them apart a certain way so
Yeah.
they weren't like all destroyed.
Right.
And then the company would like bleach off the labels and make them into something different.
And reuse them.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
Okay. So how did you get into books?
Well, I mean...
Because it doesn't... I mean, like, it
Yeah.
sounds like it's not like what I usually hear on the show.
Oh, no. So living in the campground, like I said, the winter times were always like no one was around. And
it's got to be sort of sad because in the summer everyone's around.
Yeah, it was. It was really like it felt really isolated, even though, it's not like we lived in a desolated area. Where like I know people, Appalachia or whatever, you don't have neighbors for 1,000 miles it seems, but like we had a pretty populated area, but we had no neighbors. It was all alone.
You go to school?
I went to a regular school.
Okay,
but after school's over, the kids weren't like coming to this empty campground and playing, and after school you have to come home and do your homework. So I'd be just pretty much alone. So I just really got more and more into reading and writing and drawing, and it just like snowballed over the years. And,
your parents encourage it?
Oh yeah, they always take me to the library. And I remember when I finally got to the point where I could drive. I didn't have a license yet, but you could drive, the cars all around. No matter what I wanted to do, where are you going to go? And I said, I'm going to the library. So we wouldn't be going to the library. You could always use a car to go to the library. And they were thrilled to buy books, records, anything art related.
Do they have like an artistic bent that they didn't maybe realize, or?
I don't think so. Not really. My dad loves movies. Like we used to always go to the video store, just rent movies constantly. And my mom, she draws a little bit. She used to draw more. She's like really big into crafts. So it's like making stuff at the kitchen table, like gluing together Christmas trees and stuff. But no, they're not so much artistic. They're more
but sometimes it manifests in weird ways.
Yeah.
I mean, like it sounds like they've got a little bit of it. It's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think people who wind up encouraging that stuff in their children have, I mean, maybe they just love their children and they want to encourage whatever enthusiasms their kids are demonstrating. But I think there's usually a line you can trace.
Oh yeah, they were never like, don't play the guitar because that's stupid.
Or that God doesn't like it.
Yeah, God doesn't.
It's the
God
devil's
hates
instrument.
the guitar. Well, does God like the bass? Does God like synth? What does God like? I'll do that.
The sitar.
Yeah, God likes sitar.
All right, so you're growing up there. Like what Jersey fascinates me as like a cultural entity.
Yeah.
Like is it Bruce Springsteen? Like is it all that stuff, or is that kind of just a caricature?
No, I think it kind of is. I mean, so like Jersey in general, believe it or not, has like a lot of different geographical things to it. Like there's the shore. There's actually tons and tons of like forests, like pine trees.
Yeah,
to
it's
out
beautiful.
West, southwest. If you get up to North Jersey, there's almost like mountains in the northern tips of New Jersey. And if you go out to the west, there's actually like farms. So it's like bizarre. If you drive an hour in any direction in New Jersey, you like hit all these different things. It's like you almost expect like, okay, where's the Jersey desert?
Well, but it's like there's I think the popular conception of New Jersey is sort of like industrial wasteland.
Yeah, like Bayonne, New Jersey is where that area is kind of where I do most of my work, my construction work, and it is.
And that's your day job.
Yeah, it's an industrial armpit, but it also has its own weird cultural kind of coolness too. It's slimy cultural, but I think like maybe a lot of people think Jersey, they think of like Sopranos, and that's cool, and it is that in a way, but it's also a lot of different. Anytime the geography kind of changes, the people kind of change. So New Jersey kind of seems like I said, if you drive in like different directions, you meet different types of people.
What was the you said Bayville?
Yeah, Bayville.
What is your tribe in New Jersey? The people you kind of grew up with and around. Like how would you characterize them?
They were mostly like the kids I hung out with. Everybody was like wanted to be in a band or they were kind of like artistic in a little way. Just typical kind of like kicking around, just drinking out in the sand pits where we lived. I don't know. It's kind of strange. It's like they're not city kids. They're not country kids. They're like they're just kids from the suburbs. They don't have like
which are almost interchangeable.
They're interchangeable. Yeah, it's like they're here. They're here in California, suburbs of California. They're here. Anywhere you go, they're the kids from the suburbs.
I feel like I mean, I've read a lot about this, but it seems like the suburbs are thinning out a little bit, or people are moving towards urban centers.
Yeah,
more.
I mean, me and my wife, we live in New York City now, and we've lived there for like 9 years, and we were just looking maybe to buy a house in the suburbs, move out of New York City, but like I don't know. And then we're also looking to buy something in Jersey City, like right across the river. So it's like. I heard the same thing. It's like people aren't moving to the suburbs. It's not like the dream anymore. Like that dream is kind of gone.
Right. The dream is to own a place in New York City.
Yeah,
be able to afford it.
In New York City, you can't have a barbecue grill and a pool unless you're
right.
Rich as hell. Which I'm happy where I'm at, but without a college education and rich parents, a pool in New York City. Oh man,
yeah, dude. You don't even. You would need. You need way more than even rich parents. You need like ultra rich parents.
You need a miracle.
Yeah. It's like $20 million for that kind of setup in New York City just to buy the place.
Yeah, I know.
That's absurd.
Yeah, so that's not happening. But we might move back down to where we're from, down by the ocean. It kind of seems like I'm comfortable when I'm like kind of close to the ocean. Like right now here in Los Angeles, like today I'm going to the ocean. I'm just like happy. I'm looking forward to that. I don't surf or anything. It just seems like
you get in the water.
I go swimming. I just can't. I can't get enough.
Be careful. There's tar balls in the ocean right now.
Oh, I'm into tar balls. I work around tar balls all day.
You're like, dude, I swim in Jersey.
Yeah, I swim in Jersey. I swim at my work at the oil refinery. I just jump in the oil tanks, swim around. So it's all good.
Damn. Okay. So, high school, you wanted to be in a band. You're hanging around with all these kids in suburban Bayville who, want to do something.
Yeah. Everybody in the suburbs kind of wants to do something, and everybody seemed to think that most of them wanted to, get out of there. So, yeah, most of my friends were in bands, and they thought that, the dream is like, all right, get the band together, and then, somehow, you're just going to, click your fingers. You'll
be the next Bon Jovi.
Fingers. Yeah, anything like that. But it's like... I realized, back then, you have to kind of just really put it all on the line. You got to, sell all your shit, hop in a van and just, tour just go everywhere. And but nobody was really doing that where I was from.
Well, they weren't, not only that, but a lot of people don't want to.
Yeah.
They want to be rock stars, but they don't want to. The work to get there is hellish.
Yeah.
You're living in a van.
Yeah, for years.
Yeah. And town to town. It's not like on some luxury tour. And even when you get to a bus, who wants to live on a bus?
No, buses are worse.
Yeah, 5 people at least. However many people are in the band, but you're in a bus and shared space and shitty motels, and that requires some endurance and a special kind of wiring. And you better like the guys you're with.
Yeah, so I was always in bands with guys I really liked, but we just never really did that whole thing with no one was committed enough to just give up everything they were doing. So you bounce around, and eventually I just wound up because the band thing didn't work out. I thought, all right, well, if I do more writing stuff, if I screw up and it doesn't go anywhere, I can only kind of look back at myself and say, okay, well, I didn't promote it enough, or I didn't try it enough. But if you're in a band, it's okay, so you play guitar in a band, right? And you write a song on the guitar, and then you show it to the band members, and everybody's like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I'm not really into that one thing. So it's millions of things fall flat with it. But if you're writing, it's almost well, it's only me here.
Right.
An editor might reject the whole thing, but it's only me, and if it doesn't go anywhere, that's cool. But at least it was just me kind of saying, nah,
And as far back as high school, you were already thinking about literary stuff.
Yeah, I was always screwing around, just writing in little notebooks and stuff. And I'd say it just kind of caught on more and more the older I got, around 21.
Who were some of the writers that you latched onto early?
Well, definitely Kurt Vonnegut. Just how everything. You read one of his books, and all of a sudden it led into the characters what? Oh, this guy's in this book too? Or it's his neighbor, or it's his cousin, or it's his whatever, his son's dead and he's a ghost narrator in this one. That just blew my mind. I thought that was great, how everything kind of linked together.
It's like an ecosystem.
Yeah, it was an ecosystem, and it felt he wrote these really moral cartoons almost, but it was a moral cartoon full of people that were all interrelated, and it just felt a lot bigger than some of the other things I'd read.
Yeah, I latched onto him too. It's weird. He has a powerful effect, it seems, on young people.
Yeah, definitely. So, and also like reading him was cool because I kind of figured, I was like, oh, this guy doesn't seem like he has like any rules at all. He wasn't like a hippie. He wasn't like Tom Robbins. He would just write like he would write wacky stuff, Kurt Vonnegut, but he didn't have like a...
He was urbane. He was urbane, but he was also like somehow like kind of countercultural at the same time.
Yeah, he didn't have this whole set of rules. So I really latched onto that, and I thought, wow, I mean, it's just like do whatever the hell you want, and there's kind of no way to do it wrong. Yeah,
as long, somehow it's got to cohere. But he was drawing cartoons in his books, and like that stuff, especially with adolescent boys. He would do dick jokes and fart humor and stuff like that, and that, I guess that's. He's speaking our language at that age.
Oh, yeah, speaking the language. And I just thought it was really cool being in, like, 6th grade, and I went into the 6th grade, the regular library for elementary school, and just, like, looking around at the books, and this big, bright orange book, and I open it up, and there's, like, a cartoon of a butthole. I'm just like...
That's all you want.
Breakfast of Champions, yeah. Oh, this is cool. All right, I'll try this, and whatever. So that was cool. And it didn't hurt either that the the elementary school librarian was... really cool, and her favorite band was Rage Against the Machine, and she gave me a Rage Against the Machine cassette tape.
That's what you want from your librarian.
Yeah, fucking bullet in the head. She's like, you got to read this book. Okay.
Anyone else?
People that I encourage reading. Well, my dad he always had books around, but they were like, spy novels and Clive Cussler, Searching for Treasure and stuff. And I loved reading all that stuff, but it didn't really like. I was never like, I want to write a treasure hunting novel.
Yeah.
Where I'm gonna go to the bottom of the ocean in a submarine and search for gold, or seduce women across the globe like these spy novels. But I don't know. Something clicked for me when it was more just about regular life, and then kind of regular life in these books, and then watching like Seinfeld kind of clicked for me with like. Wow, these like this really great art that comes out of just like the everyday nothingness,
Well, that can be really freeing once you realize you don't have to be living some grand adventure of a life.
Yeah.
I mean, because most of us, nearly all of us, are having the very boring existences.
Very boring existences. And I got to say, like when all of a sudden MySpace and everybody was really popular for everyone to have a blog, I wasn't. The idea, just like you click around on people's blogs and you're like, oh, Jesus, this guy's writing a blog about like a fucking toothache. And it leads into something really good, and it doesn't have a point, or it doesn't have it's not this grand essay about anything. And that just seemed very adventurous to me, and the idea, the whole idea of that, you didn't really have to have a big, giant thing to write about. So that's cool.
Gave you some confidence.
Yeah.
To get started.
How can you fuck something like that up? If you're just going to write about nothing that matters, and you hope it doesn't even matter if it leads to anything else.
Well, it can be paralyzing. I think like it's the whole universality issue where like, universality in art happens when somebody gets really personal.
Yeah.
And the personal, often might seem on the surface mundane, but if the writer's good and they drill down into it and they get to the depths and find the interesting parts of it, then all of a sudden people can relate.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's really great. Anytime you kind of somebody really relates to me, it's when they're not kind of pretending to be cool. They're not trying to be this like really great, cool person. They're fucked up in some way, or they're afraid of something, and they're just kind of trying to get through it, or they're just messing around and they don't really care if it just completely falls apart. It's just punk rock. They don't care if it's all screwed up.
All right, there we go. That was my conversation with Bud Smith back in episode 373, which first aired on July 29th, 2015. You can find Bud on the internet at coolgoodluck.com. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter. His latest novel is called Teenager, available from Vintage. Again, that was Bud Smith, back in episode 373 in 2015. Don't forget to subscribe to this show wherever you get your shows. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Follow the podcast on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Subscribe to my weekly email newsletter for free over at bradlisti.substack.com. Join the Other People Patreon community over at patreon.com/otherpplpod. Help keep this show going into the future. Join my book club or get an Other People t-shirt at otherppl.com. And if you have 2 minutes, give this show a rating. Write a little review wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Rate it and review it. It helps the show find new listeners. My latest book is a novel called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. If you want to read it, it's out there in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook editions. I narrate the audiobook. So if that sounds good, go get it. It's my book. It's a novel called Be Brief and Tell Them Everything. All right, so coming up on Sunday, you will hear me in conversation with Alejandro Sombras and Megan McDowell, who translated his story collection entitled My Documents. It is the official April pick of the Other People Book Club, available from Penguin. I had an excellent and deeply fascinating conversation with Alejandro and Megan coming up on Sunday. Stay tuned.